Yo, good neighbors, what's going on? It's Creatorcon Q&A. I'm your host, Phil Russert. We obviously stopped the show, but I had to come back when I was having this guest on. He's a legend in the industry, mind you. This is episode 121. I hope you're having a great. Hope you had a great week. I hope your Friday was great. Let's go into the weekend strong. Come on in the room, share this out. We got a legend in the house tonight who doesn't do a lot of interviews, but I don't know if he's going to in the future. But there's a rare appearance. So, Dustin, what's going on? Wolford, what's going on? Greg, what's going on? I don't care what you got on TV. Shut it off because we're going to be talking to the great Larry Stroman in a minute. But we want to, and we've got co-hosts here, Melanie and Kaylee. I'm going to share this out because we want to let everybody know who we got going on. And where are we? All right. So, look, without further ado, I'm going to just bring him on. We've got a legend. I mean, he's well known for Tribe, X Factor twice, and the first run is one of my favorite runs of all time in comics. Alien Legion. He's done a bunch of covers. The guy is, like I said, he's well respected in the community, and he's a legend. And unfortunately, he promised me a sequin shirt that he did not wear, but that is what it is. Without further ado, comic legend Larry Stroman. Hey, what's going on?
Hey, how you doing?
You look like Gandalf with the hood, man.
Yeah, I'm about to go out. I'm about to go outside. Take my dog for a walk.
So how you
Get some
doing?
exercise.
So thanks for coming on. I mean, obviously you're like I said, you're well respected in the industry. I've told that story before about Walt Simonson, how you and I were at Garden State Comic Fest, and you thought you were putting me out by making me drive over to Walt, and I'm like, no, it's Walt Simonson. I could have been in his house.
I
But to
was
you,
tired that
it's
day,
just Walt.
so I wasn't thinking straight.
Well, I mean, to you, it's just Walt, So I mean, and I understand that, but I was like, no. So what's going on? How you been?
I've been okay. Just this COVID thing is really starting to irritate me because there's just times I get up and I just want to go places and fly places, and
Well, you've
you
done a
just
few
can't do it
shows
anymore.
this past summer, right? I mean, you were in Florida,
Yeah,
and you've done a few shows.
barely, you know. But this
Well,
thing comes and goes.
how's the circuit been for you though, doing the conventions? You also did
Well,
Terrificon.
it's been really good. I mean, the conventions are good when you get there. So, but a lot of stuff, a lot of people have canceled a lot of things over the last few months. So I'm not really sure about a lot of it.
Well, I mean, hopefully things get under control. We'll get back to business. But because I mean, you're always a fan favorite at shows. You've been at my shows, and you're always a fan favorite there. So I appreciate you coming out to those. And I have to tell you, my one of my all-time favorite runs on X Factor. I mean, on in comics is X Factor, starting with issue 71, which you're probably most well known for that, drawing that. And talking with you, I had found out some things I didn't realize as far as like the character designs and how much you really invested in. And the wow, there's a why are we hearing that? Hang on, that's why we're hearing that. Okay, sorry. And how much input you had into that. Um, walk us through the process of like when you get the call to say, "Hey, we want to do this X Factor book." We want to change the team and everything.
I actually didn't get a call. I got an offer when I was up delivering some work to Marvel at the time. And the thing is, when they ask you to do stuff like this, you never really have any idea of how it's going to turn out. You just say, hey, just a job. And then somewhere along the line, as you're putting things together, you start to realize, hey, this could be something pretty good. But at the time, we didn't have the internet or anything like that. So the most you usually got is a few letters that they sent to the companies, and you usually got those late. So the whole idea of just designing stuff is just between you and the company. And for the first time now, is starting to really feel how important this was to people. But when I was doing it, there's nothing for you to base anything on. It's just, you're just drawing pictures, putting pictures together. And you never really know how people are reacting to it because you don't see it. You don't see these people. And even back then, the comic shows were so small, you didn't get a lot of people. So it's hard to really gauge
that same feedback.
Huh?
Yeah, you weren't getting that same feedback on a daily basis like you do on social media now.
Right. And not just that, but that you're getting the feedback from all over the world, basically, because this stuff has been reprinted over and over and over again over the years, and it's been sent all over the place. But I've never been to those places, so I'll have no clue whatsoever as to what's going on over in other countries as far as what people feel about comic books or anything like that.
Now, when you were doing X Factor, though, I mean, did they tell you these are the characters you're going to use and make it work? Because it was a really interesting group that they put together that you hadn't seen before. They usually played it safe, but here you are throwing like characters all over the place. Quicksilver and Strong Guy. And
what it was all of the main characters were being used in other books. So as we were trying to figure out how to put it, what we were going to put together, I basically got to pick whatever I wanted. So I wanted to draw a big dude. I wanted to draw somebody with a lot of fur on their body. I wanted to draw Quicksilver, who I thought was really cool. And I just started asking, well, what about this character? And what about this character? And people, and the editor would say, oh, that character is available, or that character is not available. And two of the characters that they wanted to have in a book, which I felt would have completely changed that book, is the dude with the mental problems. It was like Professor X's
Legion
son, Legion. And the crazy mechanical thing, the black mechanical Warlock. And when I think back on it, I'm like, wow, I'm glad we didn't have those two characters, because it would that book would have been a completely different book. So what I was doing is I was picking characters based on what I felt like drawing. And I was able to do that because these are all pretty much leftover characters at the time.
Right.
So it was one of those few moments in your history as an artist that you get to do whatever you want. That almost never happens. And I could never go back on that book now and do whatever I want, because everything else has already been set up all this time.
Right.
So even the idea of starting off at issue 71 was kind of strange, because everybody else's book started off at number 1. So,
right. Or even like a landmark issue 25 or 50, right? It was just a weird number. It was like abrupt.
Everything just basically said that this wasn't supposed to work. And we were shocked at how well it actually did. I mean, when we were sitting in a big room when they were giving us the numbers of how much the books had sold for that month, everybody was shocked that the book did as well as it did. So,
I mean, like you said, they were leftover characters, but you're following the 5 original X-Men. X Factor was huge. Louise Simonson, everybody on that book, it was huge. Is there any pressure on you coming in on an odd number with leftover characters, following the 5 major Marvel characters and the team they had? Is there any pressure? I mean, I know you're a pretty laid back guy, But is
No,
there any
there was
pressure
no.
there?
That's just it. There was no pressure at all because I got to do whatever I wanted. It was one of those things where it's like, okay, well, we'll do this. If it works, cool. But if it doesn't work, who cares? Basically, they'll just make another X-Men book and just put somebody else on it. So, like I said, I didn't really appreciate until years later how much actual freedom that I had to work on that book at the time. So when I look back at it, and I'm like, wow, they would never let you get away with some of the stuff I got away with when I did that book.
And I love that team. Now, how much did you have in as far as the revamping the character designs? Because Havoc had a whole different costume. Polaris, it's all changed up. I mean, Havoc totally changed his look. How
Well,
much did you have in that?
what happens before I even drew page one, I was just in the office talking to the editor, and we had figured out who we're going to have on the team. So as I turned to walk away, I said, I turned back and I said to the editor, I said, can I redesign the costumes? He says, do whatever you want. So designing the characters, the only one that I did not want to change was Quicksilver, because I always liked the way that character looked. So my thing was, they had asked me, well, why didn't you give him a new costume? I said, I don't know. It's the costume that he had. I was okay with it. So when I designed those, I didn't want to do the standard whatever was being done, superhero costumes, the tight fitting costume, that kind of a thing. So what I did was I was looking around in a lot of foreign fashion magazines, and I was picking stuff from different places. So without even really paying attention to exactly what I was doing, when I designed those characters, people were saying to me, wow, you design these uniforms that look like it would be actual clothes that somebody would wear, zippers, jackets, that kind of thing. And like I said, I wasn't even really paying attention too much to what I was doing. But I'm
Dude,
glad
that
it
Havoc
worked.
costume is great. I love that Havoc costume. You had his hair shown, but you had the jacket and the fingerless gloves, and it was great. I don't know, it was awesome to me, and I just thought. And then, of course, Peter David is an excellent writer, and I thought the two of you just worked so well together. And with Quicksilver not really being part of the team in his mind because he just had his attitude and he was like, "Screw you," it fit that you didn't give him a team uniform because he was that outsider, like "F you." So I thought that works out
Well,
nice.
probably what ends up being like the biggest surprise to people about me doing the book is that people always ask me these questions. What was it like working with Peter David? I said I didn't really work with him. It was like he sent the outline, I drew stuff, he added dialogue. I saw him a couple times, spoke to him a couple times on the phone, and that was it. We had almost no interaction with each other. It was just I was just doing what I was doing, and he was kind of responding to what I would do. Because a lot of the stuff that people said that they liked as far as jokes and stuff in the books, it was just something I drew, and then he just kind of went over what I did and just added the dialogue. So like I said, most of that stuff I didn't even know until I read it. I didn't even know what he was going to write.
And yet it works so well. I mean, it sounds like Marvel just felt like this. They were looking for the book to just end, and they were gonna hope the sales dribble out and whatever. And you guys surprised them. You came in and you kicked ass with it, and you shoved it right up there.
Well, that happens every once in a while. I don't know if that book was going to be canceled, but every once in a while in comics, there will be books that weren't doing very well, or books that were on their way to being canceled, and then a certain team gets on the book, and then suddenly everybody's paying attention to it again. Like Neil Adams doing X-Men, or certain things Kirby took over, and other guys, Stranko when he did Shield, or just certain, somebody would come in and they just had a different vision as to how they were going to portray this thing. But fortunately for us, if the book actually did better, we would never be allowed to do that, because those top books, they're real particular as to what you can and can't do in those books. Right. So that's why I think the best thing that an artist could ever do, especially a new guy coming into the business, get on a low-selling book. Nobody cares what you do on that book. And then you basically build your style and your reputation as an artist based on that book. And you get more respect for doing something like that. I was fortunate to do that with Alien Legion. Alien Legion wasn't a regular Marvel book. It was right. It was part of Marvel, but it wasn't one of the regular Marvel books. So a lot of people, when I got on those doing the mainstream books, people were like, "Hey, where did this guy come from?" And I'm like, "I've been drawing at this company for 7 years." People just noticed me because I just happened to do one of the mainstream books.
Right. Well, look, you have a loyal following for Alien Legion. Before we continue, I just want to let you know there's a lot of people in here. William Wolford was giving you claps and high fives and praise. Greg says, "What's up?" Dustin says, "When are we gonna jam?" I don't know if he's talking to me or you. Nicholas says, "Howdy, folks. The legend Larry Stroman." William Samuel Quinton said, "Mr. Strowman." Dustin said, "Loving it, Strowman." Greg said, "Welcome, Mr. Strowman." Brad Linder said, "You, sir, are outstanding. To this day, my favorite X Factor artist and major influence." And Nicholas had said, "Havoc is underrated." I agree with you. Very underrated character. Trish Bankston said, "Hello, guys. Good evening." Trish, drop the links to your Kickstarter, please, in the chat. Feel free as much as you want. Alex Sarabia, who is an artist that I represent, he says he'd love to be trained by you. Justin said, "Larry is awesome." And O'Reilly said, says, "Larry is awesome. He did Weapon X for me a couple of weeks ago." Now, you obviously get a lot of love. You get a lot of respect from industry people. Like I said, Walt Simonson and so many others. You'll walk in, you'll go up to one of them and they're like, "Oh, hey, Larry, how are you?" And they're talking like, you guys are, they're just with a lot of respect. And I think that shows a lot about what you've done in the industry. So you did Alien Legion.
The thing is, when I came in, I made it a point of trying to meet as many people as I possibly could who were doing comics. So I didn't see them as these great comic guys. I saw them as just people who were good artists, who were good writers. And any opportunity that I got to spend hanging around them, I took advantage of that every single opportunity that I had. So in the process of doing that, I became friends with a lot of these guys. Not good friends, just friends. Like, we say hi every once in a while. We might talk on the phone every once in a while. So people are always like surprised that I know who so many of these guys are. And I'm like, because I didn't approach them as a fan. I just approached them as a young guy that wanted to develop myself as a comic book artist. So, a lot of these guys, I hung out at their house, traveled with them.
Just not with me. Thanks a lot.
No, it's not COVID. COVID came and kind of messed it up. So.
Well, let me ask you. You have a very distinct style. You're one of the few artists on the planet that the second you see that piece of art, you know damn well who drew it, which I think is amazing. When you find an artist that is so unique that you can't say, "Well, is that this person or is that?" I'm not sure. No, we know that's Larry Strowman. You see that, you know it's a Larry Strowman. So,
well, here's a mistake that a lot of artists make. They latch on to certain artists. And we all have people who we like, whose stuff we love, that kind of thing. But they latch onto them, and they study them, and they study them, and they try to imitate everything that they do. But then the mistake comes that they then go into the business as a professional doing this. So it's really hard to break yourself away from something you're influenced by. Right. So what I would do is every once in a while, I would just switch up the people that I was influenced by. I take the stuff, whoever the artists were that I liked, and I put this stuff away, and I studied another group of artists. So what I was doing is I was picking like bits and pieces of everybody's stuff and kind of putting it together. And I've always been terrified of the idea of people telling me that my stuff looks just like such and such a guy's stuff. That always bothered me. So as soon as somebody would say to me, oh, your stuff kind of reminds me of, I would switch into another set of reference of people who I was studying. And I did that so much to the point that even the professionals who knew me when I was young say they have no clue as to where my stuff comes from because I've hidden it amongst everything.
And this thing is, your style has like an Eastern and Western flair to it. It's like you have, I wouldn't say, manga per se, but you have like a flair of Eastern style drawing and then that edgier Western style drawing together. Like, you graced one of my covers, which I appreciate. And it just has this, I don't know, this like really nice blend and a unique style. And I mean, I don't see, when I look at your art, I honestly don't see a little Jim Lee or a little David Finch. It's just Larry Stroman. There's no pieces of anybody in there. It's you. I'd be more likely to find someone that I say, oh, he has a little bit of a Larry Stroman influence, than I could say you have an influence of somebody else. I mean, I know you're a big Kirby fan, and obviously you have a drastically different style, which is a testimony to what you were saying. But I mean, where did you come up with this style? I mean, I know you were saying that you kind of like, emulated or studied other artists, but I don't know anybody that draws in your style.
It just comes from just a million different things. Like I was studying comics, I was studying illustration, I was studying fine art, I was studying cartoons, I was studying movies, animation, but I didn't stick with any of it long enough that you can say that's where I got that from. So I would take a little piece of this, and this. And what you just said about the Eastern thing or whatever is that I didn't spend a whole lot of time with that stuff. I liked a lot of it. I'd buy those books, I'd read those books. But as soon as I would start to draw, I'd put that stuff away. The mistake is people sitting with the stuff in front of them, and it's like, oh, I like this guy's technique on this. I like the way this guy lays out a page. And then they would do it. And then next thing I know, they're imitating this person. Right. So, and like I said, it's nearly impossible for you as an artist to break away from that.
Well, I mean, I love your distinct style and own work from you, and again had a cover, and obviously there's a ton of people here that love you. Keith says hello. Oren Phillips says, so awesome to hear Mr. Strowman's stories. It's an honor, sir. Keith wanted to ask you, I guess he came in a little late. Damn it, Keith. We will have to toilet paper your house. Was there any mutants you wanted to join the X Factor team, but you couldn't have to be on the team? See, the thing is, you and I talk often, so I know a lot of the stories. So I may not ask a question that they want to know because I already know the answer. So Keith wants to know if there are any team members that you requested that they said nope.
No, they never turned down anything that I wanted to do. It was just a matter of it being able to fit in the story itself. But as far as who I would have liked to be on the team, I don't know. I like the ones we ended up with. Like I said, my only worry were those two that I said earlier. that I really didn't want to do. Not because they weren't interesting characters. I just didn't think that they fit into what we would do.
Now you're self-taught, right? You didn't have any quote unquote formal art education.
No, I went right into comics.
And how did you get in?
I got into comics because I don't usually tell people the story because you can't do what I did, because it was just things just kind of fell into place all at the same time.
Like
so
when
what
you
I do is
threatened to kill everybody if they didn't hire you, right?
Right. No, I didn't even go through all of that. All that rejection and all that stuff. I didn't even go through that. I was just out drawing portraits on the street in Manhattan. And then one day I just went to a convention and I brought some of the art that I had with me that had nothing to do with comics whatsoever. So I walk up to Walt Simonson and Howard Chaykin, and Howard looked at the stuff, and then he says to me, "Oh, you're not getting any work?" And I said, "I haven't really tried." So he says, he gives me his number. He says, call me in about a week. I'll give you some work. And then I started comics just like that.
Wow.
With no samples, with no comic samples whatsoever.
Wow. Wow, look at that. I mean, yeah, I wouldn't mind a little of that luck right now with me. Lou says, hello. That is Doctor, that is Father Evil right there. He's at the Jersey show a lot, the Garden State Comic Fest, Father Evil. So, Kit says, one more X Factor run, please. I agree. I would love to see you on a Marvel book again, especially something like X Factor or maybe another X-Men book. And I'd love for you to just pick your characters because it was just great. It was great.
Yeah.
Now,
but the thing is, you're never going to know how the character is going to work until you actually do it, because there are characters that you do that you don't think is going to work at all. And then once you start getting into it, once you start changing it a little bit, the next thing you know, it becomes your thing. So,
what's up, Nefarious?
Even though every artist after I did X Factor changed it, which I was okay with, I'm glad that initial stuff that me and Peter David did was basically the inspiration for a lot of people who did it afterwards, even though I was inspired by Walt Simonson stuff.
Yeah, I mean, you also did that Bishop, the Bishop book. You've done covers like Sabretooth Classics. You've done a lot of stuff that people put a lot of attention to X Factor and Alien Legion that they don't focus on a lot of the other stuff that you've done. But going back a little bit, when you were on Alien Legion, were you like chomping at the bit, like I want something bigger, I want more? Were you happy there? I mean,
I was perfectly happy with doing Alien Legion. I mean, if I was still doing it to this day, I was okay with it. It's just that there wasn't any money in it.
Right.
There was, everybody else is, they're getting royalties, they're getting all this stuff, and sometimes the payment for a royalty was more than what you got paid for the actual book itself. Wow. So I was just like, hey, I want to start expanding out some more, and so I started doing it a little bit at a time. A book here and there, graphic novel here and there. Well, back then, what was called a graphic novel was different than what's called a graphic novel now. The graphic novel back then was just basically a one-story thing. Now it's an accumulation of 4 or 5 stories put together.
Right. It was an original story, like the New Mutants, the X-Men, God Loves, Man Kills, all Super Boxers. Those are what were called graphic novels. Keith wants to know, was there a Marvel book you wanted to draw?
I would have liked to have drawn the Hulk at one point. I would have liked to have drawn probably Captain America and a Black Panther, of course. But then
Nice.
Stelfrey kind of messed it up because he did a better job than what I probably would have done if I'd done.
He's really talented. He's such a nice guy.
Yeah.
Such a nice guy. What about DC? Is there any property in DC you would ever want to draw?
Well, at the time, actually, I was in talks with a couple of editors up at DC back during the time that I was doing Alien Legion. And I ended up doing this book called Dark Stars. I did a few issues of that.
I remember it.
And then I told him I was interested in drawing the Green Lantern Corps. I would have liked to have drawn that book. But then I started getting other bigger books at Marvel. So instead of me doing that, I ended up doing, whatever it is I did that led up to X Factor.
Okay. And you briefly came back for a second, well, it's not really, I think.
Here's another one. Here's another one now that I'm thinking. I think I would have done a good job on OMAC. I would have loved to have drawn that book.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering why you didn't say that. You told me that once before. I'd like to see your version of Moon Knight.
See, I'm not that familiar with Moon Knight. I never really read. I remember the art in those books, but I don't remember reading it, so I didn't know very much about it.
I think your art would be awesome on that personally, but yeah, Keith says, love Dark Stars. You'd have done great on those books, the books that you were talking about. Trish, take care. Talk to you later. Don't forget to drop your link. Now, at what point did you decide, you know what, I want to create my own thing and I want to do something? Because obviously you started Tribe, and then talk about how crazy that success was with Tribe that you didn't even see coming.
No, the Tribe thing was kind of a different kind of thing. I didn't set out to do that book. What happened was, it's hard to explain. It's going to take a while, but I ended up getting fired off of X Factor. And so at the time, I wasn't doing anything. I wasn't doing anything at Marvel. I wasn't doing anything at DC. So I was trying to figure out, well, what am I going to do next? So I had been in talks every once in a while with the Image guys in the early days that they were doing their thing. And then I was also speaking to a couple of people at Milestone. So I was trying to figure out who I was going to bring this book to. And at the time, I still didn't even really know what the book was. I just was drawing these characters at the time. So I ended up going with the Image thing because of just at the time, that was just a big thing. That's what everybody was paying attention to and stuff. So I think it was a good decision. And so that's how that ended up happening. But I had no idea what I was doing. Tribe just kind of came out.
Yeah, I mean, you've told me stories about the reception for Tribe at conventions, lines out the door and blocking everybody else's table. Everybody was just clamoring to get in there. Would you ever look to return to that? And because is there more story to tell?
I mean, that kind of fame doesn't exist anymore in the comic industry, but I'm always kind of in the process of deciding whether I'm going to just go back to doing it. I have about 2 or 3 stories completed that I just never put out. And I don't know when, but I think I'll get back to it at some point.
Yeah, well, I know a lot of people that would love to see you get back to that, and continue that story. A lot of people were impressed and loved it. Now you briefly went back to X Factor, what is it, 10 years ago now? I can't believe how fast time goes, with Peter David again. You did a few issues there. I was happy to see you back on that. It was great. It was a few issues, and of course the title ended, and then they tried to revamp it, which was crappy for a third time. How was that? Even though it was a few issues, how was that being back on that book? I mean, some of the characters are the same.
I barely remembered it. Barely. It was a rough time for me, that time period. So I had other things going on in my life, so I didn't really remember it too much. I do know that when I did the Bishop miniseries, I really enjoyed that. That was like probably my favorite thing that I had done when I came back to Marvel, other than the one issue. I think it was a short story I did of Black Panther, and that Black Panther story was the only story that I ever did for Marvel that I ever asked for. I never asked for stories. Everything else I drew, somebody just says, "Hey, would you be interested in drawing this?" And I either say yes or no. And that was the only one in which I said, "Hey, I want to do something that has to do with Black Panther."
Have you ever thought of writing your own story and drawing? Like, have you had any creative ideas in
I'm
your
just
head?
not. I'm just not a writer guy. I mean, I have ideas, but I probably sat down to try to write probably a million times in my lifetime, and I could never get
So when are we going
past
to collaborate,
2 or 3
Larry?
pages.
So when are we going to collaborate, Larry? I'll write, you draw. What are we going to do? Come on, let's make the next big book.
What will we do? I can't say it. I can't say it here, but yeah.
I mean, and I mean this in a good way. You know, it's not like you did this legendary, Amazing Spider-Man run, or like some title like that, and yet the respect you get and the appreciation you get for what you've done is a big testament to you and your talent, etc. You know what I mean? Because you're getting treated on a level of guys like Romita Jr. and stuff that do these Spider-Man runs, and they get these long runs on these big books. You know, you got the X Factor book and Alien Legion quality titles, but they're not like the big golden, arc. And here you are, you're a legend in the industry. You know, what do you attest to that? Getting that respect from the fans, from you mentioned from your peers, but what about the fans? What makes you what do you think garnered you that kind of status with everybody? Because everybody loves you.
I think it's just the effort that is put into the work itself. Because when I think about it, and I've had conversations with other artists and writers and stuff about that, is that the stuff that I'm known for is not the most popular stuff that's been in comics. I'm not known for doing any run of Batman, Spider-Man, the Hulk, the Avengers. X Factor's not even considered X-Men. It's just an offshoot of X-Men. And the fact that, and I always tell people, I'm also glad of the fact that most people are known for one thing in the comic industry. So I've actually been known for 3 things, which was Alien Legion, X Factor, and my book Tribe.
Right.
So I'm happy for that.
But like I said, just the status and the appreciation from the fans for those is parallel to anybody else in the industry, So that is awesome. Would you want to work for Marvel or DC again at this point if they came calling?
I don't know.
Oh, if they called and said Black Panther, would you say yes?
Probably, but like I said, Stuffery's kind of messed that up because all my great ideas that I had for Black Panthers, I think he did already. So,
well, we still got Cap and the Hulk. I'd love to see you do the Hulk. That would be fun. That'd be a lot of fun watching you do the Hulk. Do you see your style changing much over the years as you get older, as a lot of artists tend to do?
I don't even know what my style is. All I know is I just draw stuff. I change things every once in a while, and I really don't pay that much attention to it. I mean, I do a drawing, I put it away, do another drawing, I put it away. I don't spend that much time even analyzing it. I'm just glad that after almost 40 years that I'm still able to make a living doing this stuff.
And Will Wolford wanted to know if is there a current writer, ink, or a colorist that you'd love to work with?
There's a lot of great colorists that I like to work with. But I've worked with those, the colorists that I think are the great colorists, I have worked with them before. So as far as somebody that I haven't worked with, I don't know. There's this guy named Philip Russet who writes this book called Tragedy. I'd probably like to, work with that dude at some point.
Well, you already did, and you sold a bunch of covers. I mean, your comps. I gave you. They went like, and this is the thing about Larry, guys. We're at Terrificon, and I'm down the aisle talking to an artist. Larry's at his table. He's doing his thing. He's got his group of people there, and someone wanted him to sign Tragedy that he did the cover for. Larry comes yelling down the aisle, Phil, come here. So I come down because he told the guy, oh, that's the writer right there, to get his signature. That was pretty cool of you to do. I mean, I'm a nobody. You could have just signed, got your money, and moved on. But you went out of your way to call me over. You introduced me to the guy and said, this is the writer of the book. Get him to sign it. So I thought that was pretty cool. I appreciate that. But, because, that's the kind of guy you are. Bradley wanted to know if you would like to work with Milestone. Because they're doing the revamp. They're doing the relaunch.
Yeah, I guess so. I don't know what, but they had a book called what was this book called? I can't remember what it's called. One of the team books that I was supposed to draw around the same time that I was doing Try, and I had to turn it down because I needed to focus on my attention on doing my own book.
Yeah, I remember. I liked Icon, and there was Hardware. I don't remember, and then Static, of course.
I think it was called Blood. I think it was called Blood Syndicate. I think that was it.
Yeah, that's it. Keith says a new Bishop book would be great. Now you're a big Kirby fan. You obviously you love like all the new gods and stuff like that, right? Would you ever want, if they were to revamp, say the Eternals? Like, I mean, they just did, but if they were to ask you to, would you love to draw Eternals or New Gods or something of the Kirby stuff with the crazy robot monsters and all this? Because he really had that way out there stuff. And like you, Kirby had his own distinct style.
I never quite understood the Eternals. I bought it. I read it, but I don't really remember it. In this most recent movie, I don't understand that movie either. And pretty much anything that Kirby's done, I wouldn't mind doing.
Yeah. Would you try to make your own twist on it, or would you just, pay tribute and homage to him?
But you can't help but do your own twist, because then you're devoting so much. If you spend that much time trying to copy what somebody else did, the book will never get done.
Right. So, who's the artist you hate the most? No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, I'm just kidding. Don't call me tomorrow and say, "What the hell, man?"
Yeah. There's probably about 20 of those guys.
So, where do you see yourself going from here? I mean, you kind of dabbled about.
I'm just this old dude that still enjoys drawing. That's just kind of going through my life, just doing whatever I feel like when I feel like it, and that's basically what I do.
Do you have like a standout, whether it's favorite or just wacky or crazy convention moment that pops up in your mind? Dealing with a fan or something.
A couple of those, but like I said, it's stuff I can't say. It was stuff that your show would probably get banned if I talked about it. But
as long as you don't throw a bunch of F-bombs, we're good.
Yeah, I don't right off the top of my head, I can't really think of anything. Probably meeting Jack Kirby.
She says hello.
Hey, probably meeting Kirby. That was probably
awesome.
the best of all of that stuff for me.
My mother's here. She says hello.
I said hi.
Greg, Greg, Greg Johnston wants to know who's your favorite character to draw
You mean in Marvel or just in general?
in general.
I mean, I of course have to say my tribe characters, but other than my tribe characters, um,
Tragedy.
right? I don't know. I don't know. I mean, there are characters that I like to draw, but as far as an actual favorite, I don't know. Maybe Batman. I've probably done more Batman pictures than anybody.
Yeah, they always go. I love your night crawlers. I got two of them.
And the cool thing for me about the Batman thing is that it doesn't matter what I do. I could change his costume any way I want, and nobody even cares. Nobody complains about it. So that's one of the reasons why I like drawing that character.
Now, as an artist, are you very particular about anybody inking over your work that you only like to ink yourself, or do you not like others inking your work?
I've almost never liked people inking my stuff. Almost never. I mean, there's a couple of guys that I've liked working with and I thought did a good job. But for the most part, if I can't, from now on, I would ink my own stuff.
Yeah, I know a few others. Billy's like that too. He doesn't even like inking. Billy wants to
Right.
color right over pencils. So, what do you
The
feel
thing
about?
is, the thing is, they have their own vision, which is okay. Because there have been guys who inked my stuff that I thought did a great job. I just didn't think it looked like it was like I drew it. So sometimes that's okay.
Well, with your different style, I would think too that it would be hard for an inker to match up to you. Because you really have a distinct style.
No, inkers say they love inking my stuff. I get
Yeah.
compliments from inkers all the time. For whatever reason, my pencils, when they ink my pencils, they always send me messages talking about what a great time they had inking it.
Now they may love it, but do they pull it off?
Um, I think I think a lot of them do pretty good. I mean, I've had some really,
Yeah.
really bad inkers, but I mean, right off the top of my head, I can say uh, this guy Rob Stoll. I love his stuff. Mark Morales, I love his stuff. I always enjoy Carl Potts when he inked my stuff. And those are the three that I can think of right off the top of my head who I really liked what they did over my work.
My mother wanted to ask you what do you least like to draw?
Um, Long shot.
Why is
I always
that?
hated doing it.
The,
I don't
what the
know. I
mullet?
just never liked drawing that character. I don't know why.
It's the
And
mullet.
it drives me crazy because I can never figure out why I didn't like drawing that character.
It's the mullet.
The thing is, it's not that I dislike the character. I just never felt that I could ever do a good job drawing the character. So it was just a frustrating a character to draw.
What advice would you give some artists that are out there trying to get into comics now? What would you tell them?
I really don't know what to tell them. Like I said, how I got in is different than pretty much anybody else got in. But
But what would you
I
tell them
would
as
say,
far as honing their craft?
here's the thing that these guys need to really pay attention to. That there's a difference between what they like and what the companies accept. So somebody might love manga, but that particular style is not necessarily going to get you work at the companies in America. There's a few guys who've been able to pull it off, but only a few guys. So you really have to pay attention to what is working at the companies, but that may not necessarily be it might not be how you want to draw. But the thing is, you have to get this combination of something that's acceptable to the companies and something that you like to do. because there's so much stuff that you're going to have to draw that if you don't like drawing the stuff, it's good. Your comic career is going to be very short.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are romanticizing the situation. They don't realize that not everything you get as a job to draw is going to be fun. And sometimes, you're going to be drawing a book you don't care about, a character you're not invested in, or you don't like the way it looks, or
Most artists, most artists never get to draw what they want to draw. That's just how it's set up for some reason. Some of the most famous guys who've done work at Marvel never really got to draw what they wanted to draw. They just drew what was available for them to draw.
Right. Are there any books out in the market right now that you like that you're reading, or are you reading any at all?
I just read like a couple issues of stuff here and there, and that's pretty much it. I don't really follow much of anything. Usually when I was following comics, it was the artists who I was following, not the stories, not the writers. It was the artists. And most of those guys are not around anymore, the guys whose stuff I bought. So some of the young guys are good, but I only can see that stuff when I see it, because nowadays people aren't even allowed to be on a book board in 3 or 4 issues.
Right. My mother says, by the way, wishing you health and happiness, Larry.
Say that again?
My mother said, wishing you health and happiness, Larry.
Oh, same to her. Thanks.
She's in the next room. I'll go yell it to her. What do you think about the movies right now and how they've affected comic books? I mean, do you see it as a positive thing, a negative thing? It's just, two separate things?
But movies have never affected comics. Movies have never done anything for the sales of comics, which is unfortunate. Movies are great for merchandise. If you want to buy T-shirts and hats and sneakers and all that other kind of stuff, it works for that. But for the actual comics themselves, I mean, you would think that if they worked for comics would be selling hundreds of thousands of copies. But it's,
right.
It just, that doesn't.
What do you think about comics right now? Seems to be adapting more the movie versions of the characters than the characters that they were in the books for the last 50 years.
I don't know. I don't really pay attention too much to that.
Kit wants to
most
know.
Most of the movies, unfortunately, are just not for me. I mean, some of them are okay, but some of them are just. I look at it and I don't recognize it. This is not the comics that I grew up with. I'm not saying that's bad. I just don't recognize who a lot of these, stories are, who these characters are.
I agree with you 100%. I mean, I enjoy some of them, but it's not the comics. I enjoy them for a fun entertainment movie, but I don't enjoy them because they're not like the comics. Kit wanted to know, what artists did you follow back in the day?
A lot is probably everybody at the time. I mean, Kirby, because Kirby drew more books than everybody else. Kirby, John Buscema, Gil Kane, Howard Chaykin, Walt Simonson. I mean, I could just name names forever.
Who would be your Mount Rushmore of artists? Like your 4 or 5 big, what you think are the best, most influential?
I just said it. What I just said.
Those guys. All right. Well, you follow them. That doesn't mean you think they're the best, but.
No, I think they were the best.
Okay. What about John Romita?
The thing is, I always liked his art. I just didn't buy a whole lot of Spider-Man books. I didn't appreciate his stuff until much later.
I did not appreciate Kirby until much later, to be honest with you, because I didn't understand the history of comics and his influence on storytelling and sequential work and everything. As a kid, I just didn't really care for his art. as I got older, and I appreciated different styles of art, not just my blinders weren't like this. Jim Lee, Mark Silvestri, and then I started really appreciating different other styles of art, and that's when I started to appreciate Kirby, and then I started to recognize what he did for sequential storytelling that really paved the way. And then I started to understand why he's King Kirby. Never got to meet him though.
Right.
Is there a writer that you really admire, even like back from the 70s, 80s, 90s, that you think was top-notch comic writer, or did you
Roy
just,
Thomas.
like you said, you followers?
Roy Thomas. That was like the
Roy
dude for
Thomas.
me as far as writers.
Very cool. What would you pitch to him right now if you had a chance to work with him? Was it, hey, Roy, let's get on this book. What we're going to do? What are you going to write for me, Roy?
I don't know. I've never pitched a story to anybody, so I have no idea.
Well, we got to start a petition, guys. Get him and Roy Thomas on a book together for Marvel or DC. Let's go.
How about me and Roy Thomas do a long shot miniseries?
There you go.
I'm determined to figure out how to draw a long shot correctly.
So that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna pitch that, guys. Keith wants to know: do you own any original Kirby pages?
No, but I turned down. There was a guy who was trying to make a deal with me on some work that I did for him, and at that particular time, I really needed the money. So he said he knew that I was a Kirby fan. He had these 4 pages, and he wanted to know if he could give me the pages instead of paying me the money. And I really wanted those pages, but I had to take the money because I needed it at the time. But the 4 pages was from Kirby's run of Black Panther, the 1970s Black Panther. And to this day, I really, really wish that I could have gotten those.
Oh man. Looking back at your career, knowing what you know now, what would you tell your younger self if you could go back in time?
Stay away from all those women that I wasted my money on.
Did you know you're going to be such a cool...
Because that is very distracting. That can be very distracting to you as an artist. And nowadays, I think the internet and video games are very distracting to artists. And I think a lot of artists are shortchanging themselves because they spend so much time with that stuff that they actually should spend practicing as artists.
Do you think celebrity's gone to a lot of artists' heads right now because of the movies and everything like that? A lot of the young guys kind of have a celebrity attitude.
It doesn't mean anything because in a year or 2 from now, nobody will remember them anyway. unless they're doing some good comic books. The celebrity stuff doesn't mean anything.
Hi, Marianne. Oh, come here. The girls want to say goodnight. Say goodnight to Larry.
Good night.
Good night.
Where are you, Bear? Say goodnight. Where are you?
Hi.
Good night.
All right, I love you. No, sleep well, sweet dreams. God bless. Sorry, Larry. Hang on. Come here, this side. I love you. Sleep well, sweet dreams. God bless. I'll see you in the morning, okay? Sorry, Larry. So stay away from the women. Boxers would always say that too. Is like, don't mess around with them, and don't fool around before a fight because you lose your edge. There was always, athletes and boxers would always say that. You got to stay edgy.
The thing is, people think that when that's said to athlete, that has something to do with them physically.
Right.
It doesn't have anything to do with them physically. It just has to do with the fact that their mind is just somewhere else. And it should be focused on what their job is.
Agreed. Same with artists. What a ham. We're going to get you on another tragedy cover, hopefully, at some point.
Yeah.
And you can yell at Keith right now for not believing that those covers will sell well. Man, you blew through like 20 at Terrificon. Um, I know you got to go walk the dog and do your thing. I was surprised that you came on. I know you don't really do interviews, but I do appreciate that you came on. And it's tough to interview you because the conversations we have on the side, I can't bring up half those cool stories. So we'll just leave it here. Otherwise, it would be really entertaining in this show. Larry, you're a good guy, man. You're a friend of the family. Obviously, you've broken bread here. You're always welcome to break bread here. It's too bad, you moved a little further, but we hope to have you back at the show, and we hope to have you back at the house. Are you taking commissions right now, and how do people reach out to get a commission from you?
If somebody wants something like that, they can either send me a message on Facebook or one of the guys I deal with, Ken Carson. They could just send a message to him. 4C Comics.
And are you open to be hired for like sequential work in an indie scene or no?
Yeah, I guess so. I got a couple of things that I'm waiting to go through right now. So I don't want to start getting the other stuff getting in the way,
Okay. And how is it, having met the coolest Irish dude you ever met in your life?
I guess that's okay. But I grew up in Boston. No, but I grew up in Boston. I know a lot of Irish dudes.
But do you know as many that go on a video rant and say the word cockbag?
No.
Oh, man. Real quick, John Ottinger is a great creator. He said, "Hey, Larry." And Keith said it was so cool talking to you guys. Kit said, "Thank you guys so much. Always want to see Larry on this show." Greg said, "Thank you, Mr. Strowman. Hope to meet you soon." Glenn would love to get a cover from you for his book. And Keith, are there any cons you're going to this year? Yeah, I was going to say that. Are there any appearances coming up soon that people can find you?
There's stuff I'm going to, but I just don't know right off. There's one I think I'm going to next month. I'm sorry, I just don't know. I can't remember what it was. I would have to find the information for it. But
now I know you're not local anymore.
I'd like to go to more shows on a regular basis, but this COVID thing is kind of getting in the way of a lot of stuff.
Yeah. I know you're not local anymore, but are you looking to do WinterCon again in March?
I don't know. Maybe.
One of the things I like about you, Larry, you're just real chill. Like, whatever. Look, man, thanks for coming on. I appreciate you, and I appreciate everything you've done for me. You were very kind to me. I'm not going to get into it, but when I had a situation, you were very kind to offer some help, and I appreciate that. You're a good guy and a fantastic artist and a legend, man. And Steve says, "Thanks, Larry, for all your awesome contributions to this art form that we all love." And Steve, he was an animator on the Iron Giant.
Oh, cool. That's my best friend's favorite animated film ever.
Yeah, it's mine too, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, Steve's a cool dude. He's off his rocker, so we get along just fine. Larry, man, be good. You're welcome anytime you want to come back and talk, or if you have something to plug or whatever the case may be, come on. Just, call me.
All right,
man.
Let me know. All right, man.
Thanks a lot, man. Have a great night.
Yeah. Yep.
So that's the great Larry Strowman. Like I said, that's a guy that when you see his art, you know whose it is. You know, every other artist, you may say, I think that's a this, or I think that's this person, or the style is similar, but you'll always know it's a Larry Stroman when you see a Larry Strowman. So, anyway, I'm going to be really shameless here, and I apologize, but I do have a Larry Strowman cover on Tragedy. So if you want one, reach out to me and check out the copy. You get a copy, and we can get it signed. You know, maybe you see him at a show, and we'll get it signed. Anyway, Tragedy is going on Indiegogo right now. We've hit a lull. Please go back it. It's a solid book. I don't think you'll be disappointed. It's not an expensive investment, and if you don't like it, well, then you have toilet paper for the next week because it's 30 pages for book 1 and 26 for book 2. Indiegogo, Tragedy issues 1 and 2 are up there right now. We got Tyler Kirkham covers, Alex Sinclair with Al Garza, Ryan Kincaid, and a plethora of amazing indie artists. Book 1 has Larry Stroman, Will Spatasio, Sean Chen, Ian Churchill, Chance Wolfe, Keith Williams, Henry Martinez. We got a bunch of guys. So please go to give it a check out. And we've got the book of covers, which Larry's cover is in that book as well. So go check it out. Thanks for coming out, guys. My show is not back. We just did these 2 special shows this week. I couldn't pass up a chance to interview Larry for sure. And we had a great editor guest last Wednesday, Steve Cole. So thank you to those guys. Have a great weekend. I hope everything goes well. And I'm going to leave you with what I always leave you. Be legendary and have fun storming the castle.